Loyalty to the state. Oh. Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? We do have the Lucy cam back, and as you can see, she's very relaxed. Let's do the YouTube stuff, then we're going to get right into it. So, let me move Lucy down here a little bit. You okay with that? Yeah, she's fine with it. Please subscribe. I know libertarians, it's like the worst thing to ask, but I'm asking you down below. And you can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Karen Ann Harlos. And last but certainly not least, of course, super chats and super thanks matter, but I would really appreciate your support on patreon.com/Pink Flame of Liberty. Got a couple new subscribers the past week, for which I am really grateful. It is what keeps this show going, because the sweet, sweet YouTube ads are about, $3 a month, in case anyone was wondering, for small, very niche channels. And I wasn't going to do a show this weekend, so you got a bonus, but it's probably not going to be very long, but I had to get something off my chest. And the reason why you were not, and I got to check, you know me, ADHD, I should not bring my phone with me. I've got a signal message, has nothing to do with the show, that I wanted to check. Hold on, I've got to read this. Yes. Let me just say here that this has nothing to do with this stream. Okay. But I'm going to California tomorrow, and I can't really tell you why. I'll tell you why after tomorrow. So that should be fun. And I've got some other things coming up, which I think are fun. Some people won't. I can tell you, Angela McCardle won't. And some people won't like it, but I certainly do. And I'll just leave you with that. Anyway, today, I'm just the LP critic right now, but that's okay. Somebody's got to fill that role. Oh, and as I always do, speaking of LP critic, so this is my Liberty Unmasked shirt. Was that the Reno convention? Yes, it was, because the National LP came up with the world's worst logo. And let me tell you, so I made a crap ton of money off these shirts, and I split it with the artist. He didn't ask me to, but I was like, he gave the artwork. I'm splitting the funds. And of course, I do have, while we're speaking of crappy convention logos, there's a really, and not to diss on whatever staff may have made it, I just think it's bad. Sorry, I just do. The logo for this time is bad. So I do have this shirt. This is the sticker that's shown, but I do have this on a shirt. This is a much better convention shirt. You can get it in my Teespring store. That is down below. I still have to get mine, even though I don't know if I'm going to convention, but I still need to get mine. Anyway, so in my role as LP critic, I had talked a little bit about the first email that came out in a series from current LNC chair, Stephen Nikela, and how I thought the tone, a Bunchy shirt Ski2 asked about. We may need to do that. I'm also going to do a Republicans are red, Democrats are blue, taxation and theft and embezzlement is too. But anyway, so the first of a series that Nikela had done in the Parity Project. Now, of course, the first critique I had of the Parity Project, they've since changed the logo. Thank you. Because the old logo looked like the Nazi emblem. Like, no crap, it was like that really Nazi-looking eagle. It's just like, do you guys get any kind of outside feedback before releasing this stuff? But I didn't care for the email either. It was very preachy about how, and this is colloquially, obviously it didn't literally say this, but this is what it gave. You members suck. You created a toxic culture, and me, Stephen Nikela, Superman, I'm here to solve it, not realizing that he's a number one enabler of the toxic culture. He allowed an LNC member to make inappropriately sexually themed comments at a member, and when she complained about it, he blew her off. I mean, it was completely inappropriate. He was on a committee. I'm just going to rant here for a minute, because you guys may not remember all this, but I'll remember this. If you remember last year, when I ruined Angela's cash cow and king making by getting Chase Oliver on the ballot here in Colorado, y'all may not remember that the morning I did that, Stephen Nikela knew I was going to, and he encouraged me. And then after I posted it on the LNC list, he gave me this big thank you. And then what did that bastard do? He voted to backstab me in that bogus witch hunting investigatory committee. No principles. He was, and if you want to call an enabler, if you think what I did was wrong, I absolutely don't think it was wrong, and I'd do it again. But what kind of nerve is that? Don't forget, I'm sorry, I know my lips look a little shiny. It's very dry here, and I put on some of that Vaseline moisturizer, and I'm seeing it in my camera, and I'm like, it looks like I just stuck my face in Vaseline. So never mind that. He was on that committee, and the chair of that committee made also sexually themed inappropriate comments to me. Now get this. For all the people who are screaming that the committee that investigated business practices that impinged Angela was so biased and inappropriate, the chair of the committee, at the time he was chair, that was allegedly investigating me, made comments about my husband and me's sex life. Oh, how appropriate. And Nikela was on that committee and didn't do squat about it. And then I find out afterwards, you want to know what they're real ass mad about? Sorry, we're going to get to the emails, but I'm going to tell you right now. You want to know what they were mad about? In the interview. See, I wasn't too chicken shit to give an interview to the investigatory committee. Unlike the now disgraced former chair, I gave an interview. I gave a 2-something hour interview. And you want to know what they asked me? Seeing how things went for you. Oh, I'm so scared. Seeing how things went for you, would you do it again? I want you guys in chat, if you can think of it. You know me. You probably could guess. I'm going to move on to a different topic, and we'll come back to the answer in like a few minutes. What do you think I said to the committee, my Inquisition committee, when they asked me, knowing everything that you know now, would you do it again? Take any guess in chat what I said. Just channel me for a minute in all my extraness and imagine what I said. And we'll see if anyone guesses. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you. So the first Parity project email, besides having the very, I did not see that logo, it was again very preachy with no accountability on his part. Now there's a way to tell the membership the culture needs to change as chair. And I gave advice on this before. Any PR firm would have given them advice on this before. Stephen should have sent an email and said our culture isn't the greatest. And as chair, I realize that the buck stops with me. And I also realize that me and the National Committee have not been the best at setting the example. So we're going to set the example first, and we hope we inspire everybody else, and then continue with the message. That would have came off on the perfect note. But he started this whole thing on a sour note. And also, what's very sour about all of this is he acts like this whole Parity project thing is a new idea. It's not. So what is the Parity project? If you haven't seen the emails, it's this whole wet dream that he didn't say most people, but that millions of people are libertarian and don't know it. That's not true. sorry to tell you, that's just not true. Now, maybe millions of people hold some libertarian ideas, and I'm putting libertarian in quotes, and it's not as a purity test. I'll explain what I mean by putting it in quotes, because this becomes very important. And of course, people who disagree with me are going to dismiss this as a purity test, but I am going to explain why it's not, and you'll believe it or not. And Skido asked, what is it, parroting? I'm sorry that my enunciation isn't always the best. It's parity as in equality, Parity, to put us on parity with the Republicans and the Democrats. So it's like, we're going to find all of these libertarian-esque people, there's 30 million of them or whatever number he gave, and we're going to bring them into the party. This has been tried before using nearly the exact same words. Oh, I'm sorry, Skido, I'm very literal. Autism, very literal. And we're going to be on equal terms with the Republicans and Democrats. Well, the first thing, anyone who knows anything about the first past the post voting system in here, it's impossible for a third party to be on parity with the two major parties. Now, maybe we'll become one of the two major parties, but our system is never going to be a three-party system. It just isn't. We've got to reform the voting process, and then it could be, like other countries are multi-party systems. But anyway, and also, I'm going to read you the second email because there was something in there that I thought was just so disrespectful. But now I'm going to tell you what I did say to the investigatory committee when they asked me, knowing everything you know now, Ms. Harlos, would you do it again? You want to know what I said? Abso-fucking-lutely. That's what I said. And you all know me. You know that sounds just like me. So let's go read the second email. And it's, can libertarians take yes for an answer? Ugh. He said, well, first of all, let me give you some arrogance here. He thinks this is a goal for the next 10 years. And while I don't disagree that the LNC should be setting long-term goals, I actually think the convention should be doing that, and that the LNC should place that on the agenda. But in certain circumstances, no, it's not your job to set long-term goals like that. And let me tell you one of the circumstances. When you're coming in as an appointed chair, you were not elected by the delegates, because there was a scandal that caused the elected chair to resign. Steve, you don't have a mandate. You do not have a mandate to set a 10-year vision. You certainly don't have a mandate to set a vision like this. Now, as I said, this has been tried before, and I'm not necessarily denigrating it. I'm denigrating the way he's presenting it, but I'm not denigrating the idea. We obviously want to get members in. But you don't have a mandate for this. And basically, what he's advocating, now he'll deny he's advocating this. He's advocating an abandonment of being the party of principle. We're going to go over this. He will deny he's doing this, but I will show you how it's the inevitable conclusion, and I'll give you a real-life example from just today on how I'm right about this. So, let's continue here. Favor outreach and recruitment over infighting. Again, blaming the members. You want to know what, Steve? I do outreach and recruitment. You're trivializing infighting. What are people infighting about now? Oh, I don't know. Our former chair actually abandoning her fiduciary duties and supporting Trump? About her claiming that she wants to pillage ballot access, about people standing against core libertarian platform positions like freedom of movement. You're denigrating and equal rights for everyone. You don't want to take guns away from trans people. Is that the infighting you're talking about, Steve? It would be really good if you gave an example of that, but I think we could read between the lines. It's exactly what you're saying. You want to avoid the divisive issues, but those divisive issues are actually on our platform and are part of our principles. How are you any different from Angela? Minus the embezzlement part, because I'm not saying you do that. What you're advocating is kind of exactly what she is, minus the embezzlement and outright endorsing another candidate. Like, you still may want to run libertarian candidates, but you want to water down the message. Now, you're going to claim you don't. Again, we're going to go over this. And it says, foster a warm and friendly community for libertarians with differing personal values and aesthetic preferences. That sounds good, but it's not possible. Of course, you can have differing personal values. Completely agree there. But aesthetic preferences. Let's say you are creating a restaurant and you wanted people with different aesthetic preferences to feel welcome. But you're running a business. So you have some potential customers that are like big goth heads, and they want to see a restaurant that's all in black, and the wait staff is, pale with black hair and heavy makeup. And then you've got the Katy Perrys who want everything to be lollipops and pastels and bright colors. Can you please both of them? No, you can't. So as a party, you need to choose, and I can't get this Vaseline up. I'm sorry, I'm so shiny. You're going to have to pick an aesthetic. Now, you need to tell people that if they have a different aesthetic, they're welcome. But you got to understand that you can't please them. They're not going to get the aesthetic. I am a thin libertarian. Now, I got some junk in the trunk. You know what I'm saying, junk in the trunk. I'm not saying that as to my personal physique. I mean, my libertarian philosophy is very thin. I will openly say, yes, you can be a racist and be a libertarian. Small L in the philosophy. However, the Libertarian Party cannot be thin. It can't. We are a political party, and therefore we have to have a certain aesthetic. It doesn't make that aesthetic core to libertarianism, but it does make the aesthetic core to our marketing. So that means if people get a gag factor because they think gay people are icky, or trans people are icky, or people with pink hair, whatever, freedom things, we have to choose. Are we going to cater to these exclusive personal preference things, or are we going to be broader, more diverse, and welcoming? Are we going to promote libertarian brutalism, or are we going to promote libertarian humanitarianism? They are both libertarian. I think our platform gives us some direction with this. If you read the preamble, which talks about maximizing human flourishing, and that means flourishing for the most people. So no, while people can have different personal values and aesthetic preferences, the Libertarian Party has to choose one. They can tell people who have differing ones, listen, we're not going to throw you out, but you're going to have to tolerate ours. You can't be all things to all people. So let me give you an example. And I actually broke some friendships over this because I'm not tolerating this, again, I call them the anti-woke because they're not really right. They're within the Libertarian Party, but their virtue signaling is virtue signaling about how they don't virtue signal. It's like complete virtue inception here. because on the LPCO page, I'm one of the Twitter volunteers. I'm the only one right now, but there's going to be others. I posted that armed minorities are harder to oppress. And it had like an AR-15 in the background, and it was in the trans flag colors. And people flipped the hell out. Identity politics, ree. No, it's a group that has been specifically targeted to have their rights taken away. Any group that specifically was targeted to have their rights taken away, yes, you should highlight them. No, everything doesn't need to be generic. Having Cancer Awareness Week doesn't mean that heart disease doesn't matter. It means this is the week we're talking about cancer. So no, not everything can be bland. Armed people are harder to oppress. I'm sorry, this gets into the all lives matter things too. I wasn't an advocate of some of the Marxist goals of Black Lives Matter. However, I did think it was valid to talk about Black lives. That's what we're talking about right now. That doesn't mean white lives don't matter. And it is unfortunate that some people in that movement thought you should never talk about white lives. Well, I don't. I think there's a time to talk about them all. But you're an obnoxious jerk if you're butting into the middle of a conversation where you're talking about Black lives and go, but what about white lives? Well, that's not what we're talking about right now. So the LP can't have tolerance for that. I'm sorry, we can't. Steve thinks he can be all things to all people. Therefore, if you never talk about those other issues, then you're going to repel that group. You're always going to repel someone. So you have to take the attitude, somebody's going to hate me. What is going to be better to advance liberty? Now, let me tell you what's better to advance liberty as a Libertarian Party. It's to push the Overton window. You do not push the Overton window by being safe and mild and milquetoast and pleasing to everyone. What is so funny that even though the Mises Caucus turned into the neo-prags, when I joined, that was their complaint, that we needed bold messaging. And then that turned into obnoxious, just, you know what it turned into. And then it turned into neo-pragmatism, which is crazy. That's part of my problem with Steve's messaging is, again, absent saying go support Republicans, lots of it is just indistinguishable from what the Mises Caucus turned into. And then he says, don't import the toxic left-right culture war into our community. What does that even mean? I get it up to a point, but do we have nothing to say on the culture war? Even if we say we reject the culture war, that's making a statement on the culture war, and that's importing it into our community. I think we can make statements about groups that are being screwed over by the state without being screamed at that this is identity politics. You want to know something? We're human beings. We have an identity. Everyone finds their identity important. Our libertarian identity is important. And is me posting armed minorities are harder to oppress importing the culture war, or is the people that were objecting it are? I think that's a buzz phrase that means very little. Okay, here's what's impossible. Use messaging that serves libertarian purists. Most people find that to be an insulting term. And pragmatists. I think the better word is moderate, because all pragmatism means is things that work, and both moderates and radicals have pragmatic paths. At the same time, while requiring that every proposal moves in the direction of less state aggression. Now, here's what's funny, and this is what shows that Steve does not know history. Is Steve aware that a proposal that we shouldn't talk about end goals and just that everything needs to be moving to less state aggression, that our platform should be directional and not destinational, was voted on at a convention and rejected? But you have the chutzpah, without the convention telling you, to think you're going to steer the party in that direction. Okay, let me tell you how that's impossible, and I'm going to do it by analogy. You can, in other words, pleasing both sides equally isn't possible. Now, I do agree that every proposal should move in the direction of less state. But let me ask you, does the flat tax do that? Some people would say yes. Some people would say no. There is a great article that called Without a Net that I've read on this show before. But it talks about how some libertarians will argue in a calculation of complete net aggression in the entire world. And as long as you decrease net aggression, even if you increase it in a certain other isolated area, that's fine. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't agree you can do an aggression calculus. I don't think the flat tax is libertarian, because you're inserting the government by putting them in the middle of transactions they weren't so far in the middle of before by imposing a national sales tax, basically. Well, if we're talking about not flat tax, like everyone gets taxed 10%, that was the wrong way. I mean a consumption tax. So no, but others would say, but it eliminates the IRS and all this other stuff. So there's a reduction in net aggression. So it's not quite so simple as he says either. What does that mean? Stop fighting over small differences. What are those small differences, Steve? Is supporting ICE rounding up all kinds of people? Is that a small difference? Because that's what a lot of what people are fighting over right now. What are these small differences? See, it's so easy to talk in banalities and sound like you're this big savior. What are these small differences, Steve? If it's between anarchy and minarchy, that was settled with the Dallas Accord. You're not settling it now, genius. And we already are supposed to do that. Name the small differences. Is it pro-life versus pro-choice? That's not a small difference, but that's not in our platform anymore. But that's not a small difference. Is it whether or not bigotry is irrational and repugnant? That's not a small difference. Is it over whether people who identify as trans, whether, I don't even care what your personal opinion is on it, are those rights small differences? What are these small differences? You just say so. But here's the analogy I was going to give. A lot of people will talk about can ANCOMs and ANCAPs. Hey, the Arizona Libertarian Party in the house. I got compared to you today. Apparently, our vision of libertarianism is Anyway. So the example I give is people go, oh, ANCOMs and ANCAPs should get along. Yes and no. So I disagree with some of my friends on this. I agree up to a point. And this is the point I agree in. And then it was clarified, well, as neighboring communities. Yeah, that could probably happen. But let's say we achieved the libertarian utopia, like the whole world was libertarian. Could a voluntary communist society exist within Ancapistan? Yes. because people can voluntarily give up their rights as long as it was understood that they could take them back up again. The reverse is not true. A capitalist society could not exist within ancopia, or whatever we want to call it, and communia. That is the disequal thing. So, if you are messaging in a way that appeases, I'm not using that in its negative sense, appeases both moderates and radicals. If you said, this is what we're going to do, that means your message is going to be moderate. Because a radical who wants to get to no state is going to be happy with any step that gets it there, even if it's not all the way, and as long as you don't deny that people have the right to take it all the way. But the minute you get past a point that a moderate is is willing to go, they're going to be unhappy. So you start going, and I, again, don't mean this in a negative way, lower as in less equal or anything like that. We're dispassionately looking at philosophies. You have to go to the lowest common denominator, which is moderate messaging. So that's what Steve's advocating for, moderate messaging. Because if you start posting things that are anarchist, the moderates are not going to be happy. But if you post something that's menarchist, an anarchist will look at that and say it's better than we have now. So basically, he is advocating neo-pragmatism. Now, a way this can be done, but he didn't advocate this, is you articulate that we all agree on getting up to this point. And here's the thing. The Libertarian Party statement of principles is not moderate. It's radical. Our platform is not moderate. It's radical. The chair and the LP itself is bound by the statement of principles to do radical messaging. And the way you do that without turning off the moderates is you say, we're not there yet, so let's work to get there, but we're not going to lie to you. We wish to go further. But that is so far off. Let's get to where we can get. Again, it's the analogy of the train going north, and say you can get off wherever you like, but we're not going to lie to you. We're headed to Canada. Well, not literally, because we don't want to be Canada, but you know what I'm saying. We're headed further north. We'd love to have you as a fellow traveler, but we're not going to deny our destination. This wishy-washy, we're going to be all things to all people and puppies and sugar plums that Steve is suggesting here just isn't possible. Now, another thing, I need to wet my whistle a bit here. As I said before, this type of idea has been tried before, and it does kind of burn my biscuits a bit that he's kind of like taking credit, like no one's ever thought of this before. If you're going to be proposing something like this, and you know, well, I don't know if he knows, but he should, because this sort of idea that there's these millions of undiscovered libertarians out there, this gets repeated every major election cycle. It was said, and I'm not saying this denigratingly at all, this was done during Nick Sarwark's chairmanship. And he did it well, I think. Steve was on the LNC at that time. How does he not know this? But let me tell you when I thought this was done the best. Now, I don't have the hard data to say it was successful. But if you go by the amount of memberships that we had going into 2000, now a lot of that was from Project Archimedes, but that was our peak in fundraising. I think we were fundraising $3 million then, not in today's dollars, and those dollars, and we had 30,000 national members. But there was a membership campaign, and I'm fairly certain it was in the 90s. And remember, that's the time when we had some of the most radical platforms ever. we were not watering down our message. The watering down of the message started happening right before the Portland Massacre in 2006 and leading up to Bob Barr as presidential nomination. But in the 90s, we had a radical platform, way more radical than we have now. So they tried to find these people that are libertarian-esque. So let me go back to what I said before, where I put libertarians in quotes. This isn't a no, you're not a real libertarian test. The reason why I put it in quotes is because there are libertarian ideas and policies, and there are libertarian underpinnings, and there's libertarian people. Let me give you an example. There were some very conservative religious folks who were so upset about gay marriage being legalized that they wanted to eliminate marriage licenses entirely. That's a libertarian idea. Get rid of marriage licenses. But was it a libertarian idea as they held it? The outcome is, if you're just looking at the outcome, it certainly is a libertarian outcome. But are we saying that the underpinning, the reason for wanting it's not important? Of course it's important. See, Steve's lost sight of the fact that we're an ideological party. We're a party of principle. It's not just a slogan. Nearly every libertarian position can be deduced from the non-aggression principle. Even if you haven't thought about a certain position, you'll probably get very close to the libertarian position just by looking at, is coercion involved? Those religious folks that wanted to get rid of marriage licenses, we could support that legislation. But I think it'd be very wrong to say they are libertarian on that issue. They may want a libertarian outcome, but it was just because they were mad because they didn't want gay people to get married. So if we can't have it exclusively, then no one can have it. That's not a libertarian reason. Libertarian underpinnings, a libertarian instinct is much more important than someone just holding a libertarian policy in a few areas. Now that's great. We will work with them to get that policy enacted, but you are wrong if you think that somehow makes 30 million libertarians in this country. It doesn't. There are people who say, want to get rid of SNAP. Okay, well, reducing welfare and returning money to people, that's a libertarian policy. But most of the people today are favoring it not on those grounds. They're favoring it because they don't like certain demographics. It's motivated by an entirely different instinct, and that matters. So Steve says, I can tell you right now there are enough people who agree with us on enough things. Agreeing on things. Yes, we can try to persuade those people to be libertarians. I'm not saying do not try to reach them, but we have to reach them by prodding why they believe this. If someone is mad about taxes being taken from them for a certain boondoggle in their community, we've got a connection point. We can talk and we could say, you know, now that your eyes have been open because it's happening to you and it's really hurting you right now, let's look at how this is hurting other people and different issues you may not have thought about. We've got a connection point. But if you got someone who's mad about taxes being taken out because they hate immigrants, we do not have any commonality, even though on the surface it seems like they agree with us. This simplistic selling out is not something I can get behind. Okay. It says, if someone wants to move in the same direction of you, why would you say, no, that's not good enough? Nobody says that. This is a straw man. I don't know anybody who doesn't believe in single or couple issue coalitions. I don't know anybody who doesn't believe in that. This is all a straw man that he set up. But if someone wants to get rid of welfare because they hate immigrants, yes, that's not good enough. That's not libertarian. And for those of you who go, Ree, gatekeeping, would you have a problem if I said you didn't believe in Jesus, you're not a Christian? Think words mean something. It's like, how can you say now is 8:28? Why isn't it 8:40? It's like, definitions is what keeps everything from meaning the same thing. Like time is the thing that keeps everything from happening at once. Libertarian means something. Otherwise, everybody's a libertarian. Do not think everybody's a libertarian, you gatekeeper, you evil piece of shit. It's nonsense. It is, you want to talk about virtue signaling, that is virtue signaling. Now, of course, we can argue about where the bar is. I think Larry Sharp's 80-20 rule is pretty good. If we use that, there aren't 30 million people in the country that are libertarian. Most of Trump voters have deceived themselves to thinking they hold to liberty. This is nonsense. So go back to the program I thought was successful in the 90s. Again, I don't have a lot of hard data. I would like to see it. But I've seen the fundraising letters. And specifically in this case, these fundraising letters were going out to gun rights groups, typically very Republican. And they would invite these people to join the National Party. They didn't even tell them they had to vote Libertarian or register Libertarian, but it was to fundraise and get support for the National Party. And this is the way they sold it. And this was so honest. See, I value honesty. I do not believe in the seeker-sensitive church, and I don't believe in the seeker-sensitive party, because people will know you lied to them. And if you're not lying to them, you've sold out our principles. It doesn't mean you lead with legalized recreational cocaine. But if they say to you, wouldn't what you're saying naturally lead to this? Of course it would. And it does mean you have to say it sometimes. Mark Montoni once said it the best. Why hold back if you're not going to win? And if you think holding back's going to make you win, then go join the Republicans and the Democrats, because they're already winning and they have a system set up for that. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I wish you all the best of luck in doing that if you think you can move liberty that way. But in the LP, we're to be the vanguard. We're to be the ones that push the envelope. That's our purpose. If you don't understand that, I'm sorry, this isn't the right party for you. And that's not said in meanness whatsoever. So, forgot what else. Oh, so in the 90s, they would target these gun rights groups. And they would say, you know what? You're probably, it's mostly Republicans. I don't know if they mentioned the Republicans, but they basically said, the conservatives have failed you. You see that. They claim to believe in gun rights, but they constantly capitulate. Let me tell you something about the Libertarian Party. When we say we believe in gun rights, there's no but, there's no asterisk. We're not going to capitulate. You want to know what? That turns off some people on the left. Should we not say that anymore, Steve? We will not capitulate. And they didn't say it in these words, but I'm saying it in my words, because this is what these letters basically said. You probably don't agree with us on anything else. You probably think we are barking moonbats on everything else, but that's okay. Because on this one issue you really care about, we will not give any ground. While you might think we're nuts on everything else, we're also crazy like a fox on this issue you care about. And we will make sure that the people in power do not forget what the plumb line is on this issue. You do not have to vote for our candidates, though we would appreciate if you did. But you want to know what you can do to advance your issue? Become a member of the National Party. And we promise you, we will fight like hell for gun rights. That is a winning pitch that does not sacrifice our principles. And then Steve talks about persuading people over time that none of us started out as a perfect libertarian, whatever that is. And that's true. I took the Kaplan quiz, if you all haven't seen that. It's kind of a joke, but it's also pretty accurate. And I scored highly moderate when I first joined the party. But I never expected the party to change to suit me. I was very accepting of the fact of, I agree with them on this stuff. This other stuff's a little bit too far out. But I don't expect them to change to appease me. I'm cool. We just disagree. I'm pro-life. When I joined the party, there's a pro-choice plank. Okay, we disagree on that. I get some people don't agree on our immigration position. That's okay. Just don't expect the Libertarian Party to change its messaging because you disagree. So there is a big kernel of truth in what he said, but it's just gone about the wrong way. And then he's like, don't you have enough confidence in your own values? This is just such gaslighting. It's such gaslighting. Now, it's no secret. I'm not Nikayla's biggest fan, so I'm probably not looking at this in the most objective way possible either. But I think I have said some objectively true things. And one of them being that he has no mandate to do this. We have a convention coming up in 6 months. This is a divided, dysfunctional, lame duck LNC. You want to know what your job is right now, Steve? To keep the lights on. To keep the lights on and have a successful convention. It's not to try to ram down the Reform Caucus 2006 Portland Massacre ideas on us. It isn't. I'm sorry you think it is, but it isn't. Oh, I want to tell you the one line that was so super offensive. Where is it? Was it? Yeah, it was the last email. Let me find here. I might just, if I can't find it, I'll just quote it from memory. Just understand that might not be. I hate this frickin' screen keeps popping up all these messages. I need to turn off notifications. So it's not in this email. It must have been in the one right before it. There it is. So favor recruitment, outreach and recruitment over infighting. Specific examples, please. Like, God, that's talking down to the affiliates that are doing the work. But here, prefer diverse messaging over fussy quality control. Dude, there's a committee of the LNC called the Advertising, Publication, and Review Committee. They are our quality control committee. Way to shit on the people who've served on that committee, including you've served on it a little bit, Steve, for years and years and years. Fussy quality control. You mean making sure our messaging adheres to the statement of principles? Is that the fussy quality control you're talking about? Well, call me fussy and slap my ass. And what's diverse messaging? No, our messaging needs to be libertarian messaging in line with the statement of principles. What do you mean by diverse messaging? What does that even mean? Oh my God. I don't want to say who this was about because the person is now passed away, but I wouldn't say who it was anyway, and I won't say my friend that was making a joke with me. But there was this presidential campaign, and I'm not going to say which one either. This is all going to be very general, that had a PR person working for them. And this person only spoke in BuzzSpeak and started talking about, crap, wish I could remember some of the quotes. Innovative, entrepreneurial, bootstrapping, leveraging the current technology to diversify our messaging. And you'd be like, yeah, that sounds great. And then, what did that mean? It was corporate BuzzSpeak. And this friend of mine made a Facebook group, and it was just me and this friend in this group. And all my friend did was every time this PR person put out this corporate BuzzSpeak nothing that was just full of circling back around to the innovative bootstrap technologies, would just archive these quotes in this group. And it was called the X BuzzSpeak Archive. And it was the funniest thing. That's what this is. This is BuzzSpeak. Give examples. Take accountability. And I see Nathan's here. Hola. So now let me give you an example today of exactly the failure of this approach. Diverse messaging. So please everybody, right? So that means maybe a pro-anarchist message one day and a fair tax message the next day, no matter how schizophrenic that might be. That's what I meant before, fair tax, not flat tax. Okay. So someone from the National Party, a volunteer, and there's multiple volunteers who post on the Twitter page. If you notice a differing style with some messages, there's not just one person. And this person, and I don't know what volunteer it was, posted a really good minimum wage video from Liquid Zulu. It was really good, in my opinion. But if you don't know, Liquid Zulu last week, was it, posted like a 3-hour and 5-minute takedown of Dave Smith, a critique of Dave Smith. I didn't agree with all of it, but I thought it was a good video. I don't agree with all of anybody, including myself. But you know, one of the commandments in a certain segment of our party is thou shalt not defame or whatever, because it wasn't really defamation, but thou shalt not defile the sacred Dave Smith. And I like Dave Smith. I like his content. I don't agree with him on his immigration stuff, but you all seen critique videos I've done of Dave Smith before. They're ironic. I think he can't take a joke, which is ironic as a comedian, because him and I had a falling out because I joked with him. I posted a meme in the Mises Caucus group that said I wanted to run for president, but my wife wouldn't let me, and he got so ass mad over that, it's not even funny. It's like, dude, you're a comedian. It's not a bleep. Don't take it that hard. Anyway, so Zulu posted this video. Of course, it got the Mises people all up. Excuse me. It's very dry. All up in uproar. But he does other libertarian content. And he is a libertarian radical. So this should be that diverse messaging, right? Without fussy quality control. Now, I didn't expect the National Party to post the takedown of Dave Smith. First of all, National Party shouldn't be posting things like that where libertarians are disagreeing with each other and, you know, like that. And disagreement's not bad. Disagreement's not bad. So I wouldn't expect him to post that video. But his minimum wage video was really good. They reposted it. And guess who just came out in troves? Was all the Mises Caucus drones complaining because now Zulu is, you know, public enemy number one. Even Angela McCardle weighed in. And funny, she weighed in on a Toad comment and claimed Zulu was gross. Okay, whatever. And the video got deleted. What about that diverse messaging? That means you're going to post people that some people don't like and others like. You post a lot of Dave Smith. Why isn't it okay to post Zulu? Why were you capitulating to the Mises people complaining when you don't capitulate to the non-Mises people complaining, which they shouldn't either, because Dave Smith has some great videos that should be shared by National. Neither of them should be yanked down. But why did you capitulate? Now, do I know this for certain? Well, one thing I know for certain, Steve didn't delete it. Steve doesn't handle social media. He's not the one who posts. He doesn't delete things. And I happen to know just through the grapevine that he didn't ask for it to be deleted. So now that part I know. Certainly the volunteer who posted it didn't delete it either unless he was ordered to. This is where I'm getting into guessing. Brian McWilliams, I believe, deleted it. Because Brian McWilliams is a Republican in Libertarian clothing. And the way he runs the social media is he's pro-Angela. Nobody who's pro-Angela who embezzled from the party should be on staff at National. Sorry, bite me. I don't care. Shouldn't be. And he's super pro-Mises Caucus. When you have a group whose open goals is to rob ballot access and we want to rebrand the party into nothingness, no, donor money should not be going to pay for that. So I believe Brian deleted it. And Steve's all hands in the air. I had nothing to do with it. You could order it to be reposted. But this is always how Steve is. Steve passes the buck. After he made the promise that if Adrian kept getting out of line, as he did, not just with me, but with multiple LNC members, that he had asked for his resignation, the minute he became chair, all of a sudden, he's like, oh, I'm leaving that in y'all's hands. Dude, grow a backbone and be a leader. If you don't think that video should have been deleted, then say it needs to be put back up. Otherwise, you're proven these emails you sent suffer from the errors I said, and they're just not true. It isn't diverse messaging. Otherwise, you'd leave that Zulu video up. There was nothing unlibertarian about it. It just didn't make certain people happy. Just like some of the clips of Dave Smith don't make people happy, and I say the same thing to the people who complain about good Dave Smith clips being posted. Suck it up, Buttercup. So Steve, keep backpedaling. It's not me. Dude, you're the chair of the party. The buck stops with you. If you're going to send us these emails asking for money for this diverse messaging, well, you just proved today that's not true. Now, I'm going to be honest. Y'all ain't getting no money from me no matter what you do. Well, I'm not going to say no matter what you do. If Steve finally apologized for allowing the harassment he allowed, yeah, maybe I'd consider it. But right now, there's not a chance in hell. So it's not like I'm a potential customer here. But others might be. I don't ever tell anyone they shouldn't donate. I would never tell anybody that. I want the party to succeed. I'm just not going to. I just can't. And it's personal. I freely admit it is. But also, there's a duty here. You have members really upset over the severe breaches of fiduciary duty of the disgraced former chair. You got to be doing things now to make it right. The LNC voted to explore trying to recoup that money. There's been not one move towards that. Membership's pretty upset about the diluting of our principles to just be duopoly light. You're not reversing that. And also, people were pretty upset about the lack of transparency. And in fact, a member made a JC appeal in January and won it about the secrecy of the LNC list, y'all are just ignoring it. Or, as I said, you haven't talked to each other in 3 weeks. Either is sign of a highly dysfunctional LNC. We should give you money. Why? If this is to be the vision, it needs to be decided by convention delegates, or at least by a chair that was elected by convention delegates. That's not denigrating getting appointed. Getting appointed is important and is a good job. I mean, a hard job, a worthy job, a noble job. But you can't pretend that you have a mandate, because you do not. Your mandate was to make right the breaches of duty from the last chair, which you aren't doing. In some ways, you know, again, absent the embezzlement and things like that, you are, you're indistinguishable. Okay, everyone. So you got your show for this weekend. Wasn't going to, but just can't stay away. And I didn't want to talk about the LP. I've got other things to talk about. I want to talk about George R.R. Martin's case where he's suing, is it ChatGPT, for doing a knockoff of his work. It's like Game of Thrones fan fiction created by AI. And I'm not kind of commenting on it really from like a libertarian perspective. I'm not getting into intellectual property and all that. You know, I like to do legal stuff, and that just fascinated me. I want to talk about that. There's other political stuff I want to talk about that's non-LP. I really don't want to talk about the LP, but all this crap keeps happening. And just a closing word on this. It's funny, like in that post, I got, it was like the Harlow Zulu, Arizona vision for the LP. Now, I do mostly agree with whoever is posting on the Arizona LP Twitter account. That Twitter account is fire. Love it. It's awesome. Zulu and I don't agree on everything. Just because I enjoyed his video doesn't mean we agree on everything. Actually, and what I'm going to say next, he'd probably call me a sellout, and I'd be fine with that. Yeah, you do steal a penny in order to give it to the Martians to save the entire planet. And then you have to be willing to take the consequences. It is illegal. Legality and morality are not always the same thing. I've disagreed with other anarchists on that. You do steal the ladder to get somebody out of the burning building. Hopefully there won't be any consequences, but you realize you broke libertarian law, but your personal morality overrode that. Whatever. He and I would disagree on that, but I still thought his video was good. I don't agree with his Fabian strategy that when he was given like the analogies. But that doesn't matter. I still thought the video was good. We're different kinds of radicals, and that's okay. So it's funny that everyone thinks you got to be 100% here, 100% there. Life's not that simple. Okay, I'm off to California tomorrow. I got to get up at my flight leave. Have to get to the airport 2 hours ahead of time. That's just how I am. What time does my flight leave? Hold on. Y'all are going to help me with this. Hold on. One second. Going to my little travel folder. Am I in the wrong email box? Yes, I am. I'm in Pink Flame of Liberty. I need to get into my regular email. I've got a million Google email boxes. It's freaking crazy. Travel. And I'm not in Southwest this time. I am leaving at 6:25. So I got to be at the airport at 4:25. We're an hour away. Got to leave at 3:25, which means I'm up at about 2. So I'm going to get going. I will see you all at least next week. But I am going to start to try to do midweek shows. A new Patreon-only episode is coming up of the next chapter of From mutual aid to the welfare states. We're getting towards the end of that book. Oh, I've got my other camera here. I want to see how, yeah, oh, that's real pink. It's very saturated. Let's see if we can tone down. Yeah, that's better. That saturation was something else. See, the side view is, I don't know, it's just kind of weird where I'm looking over here, but the camera's over there. Okay, let me put back on this one. All right, that is going to be it. I hope you all have an awesome night. Remember, super chats and super thanks always matter. And let's go to the closing screen once I find it. All right, bye-bye.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business, not because they want to